Welcome. It's day 6 of our 7-day challenge. We are almost there. We are building our creative confidence so that we can love what we create. In day 6, we continue our exploration of the subject of confidence. We're talking about how to find your passion and follow it, and how to deal with imposter syndrome while you do it. So let's talk about it. Hello, my name is Krista. I am a full time artist focusing on portrait painting and landscapes too, and also helping others see their creative potential and amazingness too. So, we have talked about the inner critic. We explored how perfection and fear can stifle our creative journey. We explored our creative space and how it creates a spark in our process. And lastly, we talked about confidence as a whole. How can we learn to love what we create? Now let's step back a bit and talk about our passion as creatives and why we are here in the first place, and the ever-present imposter syndrome that likes to sit around and tell us that we are not an artist. So we stand at our easels for different reasons, all of us. And we have come here from different paths. This could be your healing journey, a way to release tension and relaxation, meditation. It could be something we loved as a child and are finally returning to it after all these years. Maybe it's something we always wanted to do, or we didn't know and we finally found it, like the woman from my paint and sip class on Mother's Day who found out because she took a random art class and realized she had a gift. It really doesn't matter how we come here. It doesn't matter how we face the easel, why we come, step up to the easel and create. It doesn't matter. There are no rights, there's no wrongs, there's no rules. What matters is that we are here front and center and giving our creative souls the attention it needs and yearns for. That's what matters. For me, my creativeness is who I am. I breathe it, I exhale it out. It's in my blood. It flows through as my heart pumps. I am an artist and I identify as so. It's my nurturing, it's my food, it's something I need. I can't live without it, and I need to engage in it all the time, every day, even if it's just a little bit. So I invite you right now to take 5 minutes to write down how creativity affects you. How does it make you feel when you are doing it? And how do you feel if you are away from it for too long? Do you navigate your life around it? Do you wish for more? I'll wait here while you do that. Do, 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 do. Do, do, do. All right. I gave you some time and we're back. So let me share my story from the beginning, how I got here and how I got to the easel. My story. Maybe it will inspire you. Maybe it'll scare you away. But I want to share it with you so you know that it is possible. So I've briefly kind of told the story these past couple of days, but I'll start from the beginning. Now, as a child, I was always creative. I loved to draw. I loved to sit and imagine. I was an extremely creative child. I wasn't great at school. I wasn't great at math, but I was really good when it came to something being creative. I was great at it. I was so good at it that I was in a special, and this was in the 1970s, but they had a special program in my elementary school for gifted artistic students, and I was in that class. My great grandmother got me private lessons to expand my craft. And I was really good at it. And I continued to do it through high school, where in high school, I actually had this really cool business that we airbrushed t-shirts with people's names on it and designs. And I did that for a while. And in high school, spent most of my time in art class. And I really wanted to be a fashion designer. That's what I wanted to be. And so I told the story of how I designed my own prom dress, and it's what I wanted to do. And after high school, I went to the Fashion Institute of Technology briefly and realized I worked in the garment industry for a while and realized, it's just really not something that I really want to do anymore. So I went back home and I lost touch with my creativity. I stopped drawing. I was kind of disappointed that the fashion designer thing didn't pan out. So I was bummed and I went on with life. And I ended up staying in Connecticut and having children and raising a family. And the aspect of creativity got farther and farther away. And almost so far away that it just didn't exist anymore. I completely forgot that I did it, that I was doing it. And so eventually when my son was about, I can't remember, he was still in elementary school, maybe middle school. I can't remember, but he was having some organizational issues. And so we went to a therapist to kind of talk through it and see, how we can work through his organizational issues. And the therapist was like, you. And the therapist was like, when you leave this session, you need to take an art class. I want you to register for an art class and you need to get back to creating. So it all came out as we were talking that, I had left this passion behind, and a lot of my issues were arising from the fact that I had forgotten about this passion and something I was good at, and I need to return to it. So I was okay. And so the next day I looked and I registered for an art class. And all I could find was it was pastels, and, it was with this artist, and I was like, okay, I'll do it. I'll do this. I was a little scared. The class ended up getting canceled, and then he offered to have it in his home. So we all met at his home once a week. And once I started creating again, it was like I was hit with a ton of bricks. It was like the feeling, the only way I can explain the feeling that I had is that it was similar to you being thirsty or being stranded in the desert, right? And you need water and you finally get water, and the feeling of that. Now, I don't know what that feeling is, but I'm trying to help you visualize how I felt when I started creating again. It was like I was breathing again. It was like I was getting food. I was nurturing my body again. I've been starving myself all these years. Therapist was right, wasn't she? And so I started creating. It was like instant. It's all I wanted to do. And my art supplies grew and grew and grew. I talked about my space, how I started in the corner of my dining room table, and it grew and grew and grew, took over my whole apartment, blah, blah, blah. It overwhelmed me. It's all I wanted to do. Now, keep the therapist in your head. Jot that down. Don't forget it because we're going to circle back to the therapist in a little while. So I was like, yes, this is what I'm going to do. And so I talked to my husband and we started making the plans for me to quit my job. I hated my job. I worked in finance and I went through two market crashes. It was just stressful and I didn't like it. And I had so much anxiety from working. I would go in the bathroom and just cry sometimes. It was so stressful. And I wasn't being creative. So go figure. The therapist was right. So keep thinking about that therapist. So I decided that this is what I wanted to do. And we made a plan. It wasn't like I woke up one morning and said, this is what I want to do and I'm going to quit tomorrow. It took time. It took like a year or two for us to plan. We paid off all of our debt and we simplified things so that we could possibly work with one income and one kind of, non kind of weird, not stable income. So, put a, nail in it and mess things up. I was starting to get closer and closer to that goal. I started working with a business coach to help me make up, get through that goal. I would create vision boards. I was ready. And when I was this ready, my husband was laid off and, we lost a major part of our income. So I had to keep working. And my husband didn't go back to work. He didn't go back to the corporate world. He was in finance as well. He decided he wanted to be a yoga instructor. So we were both following our passion. So I had to wait another year and we did not forget it and we stuck by it. And a year later, December 31st, 2014, I quit my job. I left my finance job of 20 years and I became a full-time artist. My husband was still a yoga instructor. So then we had two kind of unstable incomes. But we did it. We did it. And we made the decision to follow our passion. Now, I told the story how my husband, I had to go get a job to bring in some type of stable income. And that's where the Paint and Sip came into being. That's when I started working at the Paint and Sip. And working there really helped me. It helped me build confidence as an artist, helped me build confidence in teaching. Keep thinking about the therapist. I'm going to get there in a second. And I worked there for like 7 years. And I became a full-time artist. And I didn't have it all together. I didn't know what I was doing, but I became a full-time artist and I was following my passion and I was happy. I was happy. So let's bring the therapist back into the circle because I love how things come full circle. So while I was working as an artist, I would teach. I would teach at the Paint and Sip, and then I would teach art classes, in-person art classes. I was teaching at this local college to senior citizens. And I also subbed. I was like a sub art teacher. So I was asked to be a substitute art teacher at this private school in close to our home. The teacher was going on maternity leave. So I decided that I was going to sub that. And I was also subbing and for the younger kids as well. So at this school, I was sitting in the lunchroom and the therapist actually worked at the private school as a social worker. And so I'm sitting at lunch and there she is right in front of me. And we're having lunch together in the cafeteria at this private school while I'm subbing. And I was like, do you remember me? And she's like, yeah, I do. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, so I have to tell you, Remember when you met with my son and me, and you told me that I needed to take an art class, and that's what I need to do when I leave here. I need to take an art class, and I need to focus on my creativity going forward. Well, guess what, Miss Therapist? I did that. And I quit my job like 6 months ago, and I'm a full-time artist right now. And now I'm subbing as an art teacher, and this is what I do for a living. And if you could imagine, I'd like you to just sit and imagine her face as I'm telling her this story of how I'm now an artist, because it's almost like, and I'm sure therapists and when they give advice and their student or the person that they're working with takes it in and finds success from it. She was crying. She started tearing up, and she gave me this big hug. And I told her it was you telling me to go do what I needed to do. And I did it. And I realized you were absolutely right. I realized that that is where I need to be. And so that's, that story, how things come full circle. If she never told me to do that, would I be here right now? I don't know. So listen to what people tell you around you. Always listen, because the gods or the angels or the energy is talking. We need to listen. And I listened, and look where I am now. Okay. So let's tie all this together into our confidence theme. And when I quit my job and I told people that I was painting full time, I can't tell you how many times when I would tell them the story, they were like, wow, I wish I could do that. I wish I could quit my job and do what I love. I am too scared to do that. And I would hear that over and over again. And I'd always say, it's possible. If there's something that you're so passionate about, do it. Now, I know it's not easy. I mean, look, it wasn't easy for us when we did it. We just made a plan and we stuck to it. And when I did make the transition from stable paycheck, full-time job, stable career to becoming a full-time artist, even neither one of us, my husband at the time was a yoga instructor. We both had kind of wishy-washy, unstable income. It was coming in and out in different time intervals. Plus, I was putting my son through college at the time, but we found a way. And I'm always like, when you make the right decision, life seems to just fall into place. So I have to be honest, really, when people say, I was just too scared, I was terrified. But I wanted it so badly. I was willing to put the work in to make it happen. And I had the support of my husband and family. I really hated my job so much. I really did. That it gave me so much anxiety and pain that I just needed to break free of it. It didn't really matter how much money I was making. And at the end, I was doing really well for myself. But it just wasn't for me. And I wasn't happy. And I don't want to, spend my last days saying, what if? I want to be able to say, I did, right? So was I ready? No. Did I think my art was ready at that time when I made the decision? It definitely wasn't. When I look back at my art, I'm like, wow, I needed to learn a lot. Did I have all the information I needed at that time? No, I had no idea what I was doing. I was still green and trying to understand how to move forward as a full-time artist. I wasn't in any type of perfect state of being, perfection. Fear was right around the corner because I had no clue. And the inner critic was sitting there, right there. I had no clue, but I wasn't going to waste time. I was going to go for it because I was so unhappy and I needed happiness. So definitely, I was ready. And I think when you make that decision, you have to be ready. You have to be willing to take all the punches, deal with the barriers that you face, and just dive off the diving board and go for it. And I did. And I don't regret my decision. I'm happy. There's times when I'm frustrated. I get upset when I post something on Instagram and nobody looks at it. I deal with all the same anxiety, but it's mine. It's mine and I own it. And I enjoy waking up in the morning. I enjoy, starting a new day, and I enjoy what I do and helping people. So that's my story. I'm going to stick to it. But it takes a lot of confidence. And I fight every single one of these challenges we talked about. I fight it every day. And I still fight it. And that's why I like to share with you some of the feelings I go through so that, you have some guidance and support as you move forward in your creative journey. So at the time, my inner critic was on full blast. I was so green. And it's so interesting to look at my artwork back then and see where I was and see where I am today. It's really amazing. And I'm really proud of myself of how far that I've come. So let's introduce the topic of imposter syndrome. Because when I was starting out, imposter syndrome was right there. And I'm not saying, I think I had back then, I didn't really know what I was doing fully. I was, I talked about faking it until we become it. And I was doing a lot of that back then, a lot of it, because I needed to prove myself and I needed people to give me opportunities. So the teaching opportunities, I needed to fake it until I became it. And eventually I did become it. But always feeling like scared to get up in front of people and do art and, worry that I'm going to screw it up or they're going to see right through me and they're going to see that I'm a fake. Those are things that I've gone throughout that entire story of quitting my job and becoming an artist. I've dealt with that and I continue to deal with that. And I'm going to share a story about, my current state of imposter syndrome and how I deal with it. Now, I teach, and I've gained enough knowledge to feel confident that what I teach is what I own and what I know, and no one can tell me different. But in my artwork, in my ability to create portraits, I still struggle with the feeling of accomplishment, authenticity, and standing up with the big boys in the big leagues. And so I think I told the story of the group that I joined. If I didn't, I'll tell it again. So when I was just starting out with portrait painting, I had no clue. I had no clue what I was doing. I was even scared to draw a face. But I started learning. I started gaining knowledge. I started getting better and better. And I wanted to push it to the next level. And I needed to know how to do that. So I needed to set the bar up here so I could see where I needed to be. And so I started following all these amazing portrait artists that just happened to be women. But I started following them all, and they all were a part of this group. I think I told this story, but it's meaningful here too. I did tell this story because the woman who likes my painting, but it's meaningful right here. So I'm just going to hurry up and tell it. So I joined this group. And I continue to join the group, and I am a part of the group right now. And I have worked really hard to gain validation, gain acceptance. I've worked really, really hard in creating a body of work that can sit up with the best of them. And I've gotten there. My artwork somewhat in some spaces sits there with the best of them. And I've made friends with some of the artists, and I feel somewhat that I am a part of this group. Occasionally, I feel like all shriveled up and small because some of them are just so amazingly good. But I know I can get there. I can get there. Um, and again, I pace them all up while I'm creating so that they can support me and help me get there. But it's hard sometimes because I feel I don't have the art school education. I'm completely self-taught. Everything that I've learned, I have to absorb from everybody else in different areas. I didn't go to one space and learn to be an artist. I don't have the pedigree, so I feel like galleries are going to kind of look down on me because I'm self-taught and I'm amateur and I may be perceived as green and new. I don't know. And so I still struggle with that. And submitting paintings to this group is always so hard because I'm like, is it good enough to be put in this space? Am I good enough to be put in this space? Do I belong here? And occasionally I feel, the comparison comes in and I feel not worthy of being in that space. But I stick to it and I'm determined. And if that means I don't finish a painting and I start over and I learn from all my failures, that's what I do. So I'm excited for what the future holds for this group and for me and my own body of work. I've been working really, really hard. It's like training for the Olympics. I've been busting my tailbone to get it where I need it. And I feel like I'm almost there. I feel like I've got it. I need more juice to get me over the edge. And it's a good feeling. And I'm been really, really proud of myself that I've reached this pinnacle of my creative career. So I'm glad I can share that with you. But feeling like an imposter, it comes out a lot. And it happens because I've set myself, I've put myself in this level and I've shared and I've entered into this level of expertise that I'm probably still at the beginning stage. I'm not there yet. But the only way that I can get there is if I put myself in this space. For example, one more story, and I'm gonna move on. When my daughter was young, and she was in middle school and high school, she was really good at playing basketball. And so, she'd go to all these different leagues and she was really, really good. And there was a promise that maybe she'd be good enough to get into a good college. So we pushed it and we did it. And so the person she was training with was like, well, for her to get really good is she has to train with a higher level, higher caliber basketball group. She's gotta go higher. She can't keep playing with this level. The only way she's gonna get better is if she goes up another level or two and challenges herself. So we would take her to the Bronx and she would play in this league that was way over her. Like it was way, but it gave her confidence and it made her stronger and made her better because of it. And so you have to challenge up to get there. You can stay in your safe space and that's okay. But it's always great to challenge yourself upward so that you can grow. You can't grow if you stay right here. All right. So let's keep going. All right, so let's explore how imposter syndrome affects our creativity. Let's just go for it. How does it affect us? All right. Being a fraud, feeling like a fraud, a fake, right? A joke, not real. Imposter syndrome convinces you that your success is a fake. Like you don't belong here, right? You don't belong in this space. You are still an amateur. You're almost fitting in. You're almost there, right? You're almost passing. You hear all these words, and that's imposter syndrome, right? We feel that we are a fake. We're not real. The comparison. It throws you into a never-ending game of I am good, I am terrible, I am good, theirs is better, grass is greener on the other side, why doesn't my artwork look like that? On and on and on and on. Where everyone else's work seems light years ahead of yours all the time. You shrink your own creativity, your own self, you shrivel up into a little ball, feeling like a tiny, tiny being incapable of sitting with the big leagues, right? All the time, right? And instead, we should be, putting on our Wonder Woman pose and saying, no, I'm good enough, right? The perfection paradox. It sets impossible standards. Remember, perfection does not exist. But why do we continuously chase after it when we can't achieve it? It's like the carrot on the stick or the rabbit in the dog race. Like the dog's never going to catch it. They're never going to catch the rabbit, right? It's just not going to happen. Perfection sets impossible standards where anything less than flawless is a failure, right? This relentless chase towards perfection kills creativity, stops it right in its tracks, leaves you stuck, leaves you right here, and you don't move forward. It blocks every bit of creativity that you own and have worked so hard for. So now that we know how imposter syndrome operates, how can we make it go away? What can we do? What strategies can we introduce to help it go away? Now, some of these strategies are pretty similar to everything else. It's all the same, and it all works within the same. So let's talk about some of the strategies. Challenge the narrative. In day one, I provided an amazing class called Soulful Soul Cards, where we create cards. On one side, we write things that we tend to tell ourselves. I'm not good enough. I need to do better. And on the other side of the card, we change the narrative and try to change that I am into a more positive statement. Don't let people tell you otherwise. Change the narrative. Use your words wisely and refrain from the I am ... negative answer. Be careful what you say about yourself and your creativity. Praise yourself. Give yourself a high five. Pat on the back. You are right where you need to be. And I know that sounds really difficult and can be hokey. Oh, I am amazing, right? Again, Wonder Woman pose. I can do this. You got this. Next, celebrate the imperfections, right? Get wonky, get messy, embrace it. Embrace the unexpected. Everything does not have to be planned and structured. Be intuitive. And be okay with failure, be okay with the mistakes, right? True creativity thrives in the exploration and experimentation of the adventure of creativity. See mistakes as your growth. These are stepping stones to something greater, and not the roadblocks, the barriers that keep us from creating and getting better. All right, next, find your tribe. Remember, I've repeated this over and over again. Share your work in spaces where you feel comfortable. Find people around you that are going to provide you positive growth, positive support to help you move forward. Surround yourself with supportive voices, fellow artists who understand the imposter's game, and most artists do, right? Not only understand, but are willing to share their struggles and what they go through to help you move forward. Share your work. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid. Share your work. Celebrate your victories and build a community that positively lifts you up, not drags you down, right? Stay away from the instructor at the Art Students League that just didn't provide positive feedback. It was always kind of negative and kind of like blah. And it didn't really do anything for me. It made me feel terrible rather than positive. I didn't feel motivated. I just didn't want to do it anymore. Stay away from those type of people. Again, find those safe spaces where you can thrive. Work with a mentor, take art classes, do one-on-one coaching. These are all really helpful in helping you battle the imposter syndrome, battle your inner critic, and deal with perfection and fear, and help build your confidence forward. All right, next, focus on the process, right? Don't focus on the perfection. The process is more important. Shift your focus from the end product to the joy of engaging in the act of creating itself. Love the fact that you are engaging in it. Don't get yourself down if there are a lot of unfinished pieces, like me, sitting in the closet. Those are still growth. They're not failures, they're growth. And maybe change the word failure. Stop using the word failure and replace it with growth. I have a lot of growth in my closet. Savor the flow of ideas. Love that you are just doing it. Let the act of expressing yourself be your reward, not the elusive validation of an imagined audience. So, process the fact that you stepped in front of your easel and that you did it it's a success, whether you finished it or not. And every time that you start a painting and you step up to the easel, that's why I like keeping a journal and making note of feelings and things I'm struggling with. Each time you step up to a new painting, whether you finish it or not, whether it comes out how you want it or not, it's all growth. It's all growth. Next, remember, everyone feels it. Every artist, I don't know if you meet an artist who says, no, I am just great at everything. I don't suffer from imposter syndrome. They're lying, or they're just too cocky to admit it. Even the most celebrated, most professional artists deal with the imposter. They deal with the inner critic. They deal with perfection. They deal with the fear of rejection. They all deal with it. They make mistakes. They probably have, inner anxiety when they have to teach or talk in front of people. They all do it. Just because you're sitting there watching them create magic in front of you, you don't know what they're feeling, and they may not share how they're feeling. They may think, you might think that their work is perfect, but they might think their work needs more work and isn't perfect. And there's probably another artist that they look at they probably think is better than them. It's like a cycle, right? We all feel it. It's all there. It's a part of being a human being, and it's a part of being an artist. So, imposter syndrome may be a debilitating, messy villain, just, but by recognizing its voice, by recognizing what it is, what it means, what it does, by taking account of what imposter syndrome is and begin to celebrate your own journeys, we can begin to find our creative tribe and our the positive shield that we're going to surround around us. You can find opportunities to outsmart it, unlock the boundless potential within you as a creative. Remember, your artistic voice matters. You're valid. You're real. You are an artist. All right. So I hope you enjoyed my talk about imposter syndrome and telling my story on how I became a full-time artist. The story doesn't end there. I have a bunch of stories. We have one more day. Thank you so much for listening to day 6. Tomorrow is our final day of the 7-day challenge. I'm really happy that I took the time to do this and just talk through, because even me sitting here talking in front of a camera about my struggles and my issues and how I deal with gaining more confidence and loving what I do has been helpful for me too. So I hope I've been helping you. I hope this has been helpful. So in day 7, our final day, we're going to explore we're going to talk more about finding your tribe, right? Your artistic circle, because I feel that that's key to your creative success. When you surround yourself with people, with art, with things, support, guidance, it can help you tackle the inner critic, imposter syndrome, running towards perfection, being scared of rejection and fear, helping you learn how to develop your creative space, how to develop your style, all these things that I've spoken about, building up confidence. When you have a tribe and you have support around you, it helps. It helps a lot, because as artists, sometimes we are alone a lot. I know I am. I'm sitting here in the corner of my living room. Nobody's home. I have my puppies laying right here, sleeping and snoring. But I spend hours at the easel, not talking to anybody else. And I spend a lot of time alone. And sometimes you need the support and guidance to help you problem solve and get through whatever you're getting through. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow. And we'll put the confidence thing all together. Everything that we talked about, we're going to put it all together and finish up our 7-day challenge where we can love what we create. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for following. I'll see you tomorrow.